Aloha Ukulele Club of Hawaii. This is Neal Chin here. And I'm really excited to be joining you folks here today for a little ukulele lesson on some right hand techniques. A couple of different, or I should say your strumming hand techniques, so to say, right? We're going to be going over two little techniques today just to kind of get you kind of rolling, so to say, of just how to change a little bit of your articulation, with your right hand. I think, going to club and practicing these little techniques like this is a really great place to do that, because as you're going through and playing maybe some familiar favorites and whatnot, songs that you're maybe comfortable with, it's kind of I like to think of it as it frees up a little mental real estate, so to say, so that you can kind of be like, maybe I'm going to try and work on adding a little bit of a brighter texture. I'm going to try out my fan strum over here, or we're playing this song and it has a really nice soft kind of sound to it. Maybe I'm going to switch over to using the pads of my fingers. Something to the effect of that. It can be really fun to do, and if anything, you can give your little neighbor a surprise there of some maybe extra little timbre or extra little kind of texture to add to your music. So, without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and jump in. A couple of things to consider, right, as we go through this. Your right hand is such an expressive tool. Your strumming hand is such an expressive tool when playing any kind of stringed instrument. Of course, most definitely our ukulele. Yeah. I'm not too sure exactly where I heard this quote from, but I like to think about it and embody it when playing. Right? Is that the left hand, your fretting hand, is what you know, and that your right hand is who you are. It's just a nice little sweet sentiment to kind of think about, because C will always be C, so to say, on every musical instrument. F will always be F, but the way we change our right hand, right, it might change the total effect of what you're doing. Okay, so as we go through these, right, please know that this is going to be a little bit more of like a technique-based and conceptual, and with a little bit of, I should say, conceptual or concepts, I should say, kind of woven in for you to practice. And because of that, we're going to be doing a lot of repetitive motions, right? And, as, ukulele players, right, and we are the athletes of the fine little muscles, right? So please, right, please give yourself the grace and allowance to stretch, right? Just if you were going to go out for a walk or a run, I think it's just good to stretch out those legs. And the same thing here, okay? And of course, right, invest in the power of rest, right? So, take moments, right, as we're going through this, if you need to stop and let your hands relax, right, please do so. I always like to mention that you should never be in pain when you play the ukulele. Yeah, a little bit of tension might be nice to grow those muscles, but absolutely you should never be in pain. Okay, so keep listening to your body. And on that note, I think we'll go ahead and jump in. Now, for the two basic techniques that we're going to be working through today, okay, at large, the concepts here is that we're going to be creating different textures or different timbres, right, by using different surfaces of our hand. Okay. Now, I would take the time, because it's just kind of fun too, to just kind of investigate, what does it sound like when I use this part of my hand to strum? Or what does it sound like, or it kind of feels comfortable for me to do this in my seated position, or whatever the case is, to go ahead and explore that. Okay. You'd be pleasantly surprised at what you'll find. Yeah. Because again, just like as I mentioned earlier, it adds so much character, to what you're doing. Now, for our two techniques here, we're going to think of these as just like polar opposites, just as a way to kind of think about how we can get started here. And these two polar opposites are going to be expressed actually by two sides of our hands. Okay, kind of what I mentioned earlier, actually. We're going to be working from our nails on one end of the spectrum, and on the other side, we're going to be working from the pads of our fingers. Okay? Now, full disclaimer, you don't necessarily have to have long nails like this to play the ukulele, right? They can add texture and change the sound, and that's the kind of the large part for you to make that executive decision for yourself, okay? But I will safely say, even if you don't have a long nail, like if you look on my left hand here, okay, I still have these, places where my nails are. They're just not extending too far out, okay? So if you don't have long nails, I want you to shoot for that part of your hand, okay? Now, with using our nails, right, it kind of works out really nicely, because that means that we're moving, oftentimes down like this with our hands, right? And, just as a quick mention, right, for our technique for strumming, a lot of what we do on the ukulele, I think, works really nicely if we come from the wrist. Okay, so a little bit of this kind of shake, right? You shake your hand out a little bit, right? I like to do like a little, just as a kind of warm up even too, kind of loosey-goosey kind of wag like this, just like letting it fall limp almost and shaking out my hand, kind of stretch out a little bit. It's always nice to keep the body nice and fluid. Okay, so you give it a little shake. Okay. Now, when we're coming down with our nails, first even just like this, I'm using my index finger. Okay, it tends to be a little bit more bright in sound. Okay, and so let's go ahead, right, and let's practice our individual fingers. Okay, what I'm going to go ahead and do is take my left hand. I'm just going to mute the ukulele so that's not too loud. Okay, because again, I'm going to do it a couple times, so it's kind of nice to keep it a little bit muted. So just let your left hand fall on the strings, and now here, start off with our index finger, just right on that nail. You just come down like this. Okay. And while a simple device of just strumming, I'm sure we've all done this to some, effect before, okay? All right, it's not the material itself, right? That's important often, but it is how you interact with the material. So as we go through this, I want you to bring into yourself awareness, right? It's usually a pretty wonderful thing. Now, in this case, right, I'm talking about awareness of feel. Okay? Like, how does it tactile, in a tactile sense, excuse me, how does that feel underneath your index finger as you move down? Right? How does it sound, so to say, right? That could be something that we're aware of, right? Okay? And maybe, right, oftentimes when we're thinking about these things and trying to be aware of them, it's good to have something to compare and contrast them with. So let's go ahead and now move to our middle finger. Okay? Same idea, right? But just down right there, shooting with the nail. Okay? Excuse me for flipping the bird. Okay? But coming down with the middle finger. Huh. Okay, I'm getting a feel, so to say, on my cuticle here. Strumming a little hard. Okay. And I'm also noting here in my sound, I feel like it sounds a little bit deeper. That's my initial reaction listening to that sound. Okay. Move on to our ring finger. Okay. The light fella. Okay. Often the weakest of all our fingers over here. Okay. Let's give that fella out. Take him out for a ride, so to say. Yeah. So just your ring finger coming down on the nail. May feel a little goofy. I feel like when we first started doing this, and maybe even for me now just doing this, it feels a little goofy. Okay, but go ahead, right? Be goofy. Let it feel goofy, right? Oftentimes in that space, right? That just means that our body is learning something new. Yeah. Okay. And relax. Okay. And of course, last but not least, the pinky. Okay? Same thing, coming down. Do that a couple times. Remember, what does it feel like underneath your fingers? Right, 2, 3, and then we'll stop right here. Okay? Now, again, right, when we're coming down with our nails and being very precise about them, listen to all the different tones that we've already created today just by using different fingers. Okay? Now, I tell you what, just to implement it into it's just such a great sound and I feel like a technique that is just about ubiquitous with the ukulele, right, is when we do these fan strums, right? Often we might refer to this as a rasgueado as well, okay? For our class here, I'm going to call it a fan strum. I like the one syllable idea, okay? So our fan strum, okay, I'm going to be holding an F major chord. Okay, it might sound something like this, right? Instead of coming down with one finger, which is a nice, clean texture, right? Real straight line, okay? I'm going to open up my hand and use multiple fingers to create a little bit of a kind of sound, right? Okay, like one of those little frogs, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to do like fan, down, down. And you can hear it just adds a little bit of texture, okay? Now I'm going to give just another example before we move on, and I'll show you how to do it, okay? For example, I might use something like the good old down, down, up, down strum, right? Okay, and this is, again, with the one finger, so to say, okay? And now with the fan, yeah? let's take a look. Okay. One of the core tenets here, core ideas, right, again, is that we're using multiple fingers, okay? And for our fan strum today, what we're going to be using, we're going to just be using these 4. No thumb today. We'll come back to that fella, okay? But using these 4 fingers over here, okay? Just as a couple little warm-up, little exercise, right? First, right hand, right? You do a little wiggle, little wiggle, little wiggle, all right? Just to kind of get them moving, let them feel limber. A lot of what we're going to be doing, that's why when we're doing a technique like this, is using the back of our hand, like this, yeah? So kind of opening up your hand like this, so to say, even from moving from the knuckle, right, is kind of a nice way to think about it, okay? The other thing, I think, just to further that articulation, right, is if you hold your hand forward and if you can do like the wave, right? So lifting up with your pinky first and then coming up. And oof, even after all these years of doing it, for me, it's still a nice calibration because I always try to see, oh, just how slow I can make those motions, yeah? Okay. And at first, it's probably just going to feel like this, okay? But that's the beautiful part about practicing, yeah? We grow into a new part of our body, right? And a new way to do things, okay? So be patient and give yourself the grace to practice, okay? And we make a fist, okay? And we're going to release one finger at a time from our pinky. So I'm just going to release my pinky, my ring, middle, and then index, yeah? Just like this. You just do that a couple of times. This is a great one to do when you're, I always like to think of this one when you're sitting in traffic. You maybe just there and it's maybe not the most favorable of places, right? So you're sitting there, let out a little of your aggression under your fingers, okay? And you notice, right, you might even be able to hear a little flick in my nail, okay? And that's just to help kind of illustrate that my thumb is in front of my 2 fingers here. So when I release them, there's a little bit of resistance from that finger for me. Definitely a lot there. And then my index tucks really nicely and easily behind my thumb when I make that fist, okay? And that's going to be kind of a similar sensation to what's happening here on your ukulele, right? When we're down on those strings, okay? So, on that note, okay, if you've been working with me this whole time, take a moment to relax your hand and give it a little shake. Just let it hang to the side of your body is always nice, okay? Okay? And you bring it back, okay? And now, let's take a look. Muting again with our left hand, we're going to let it sit on the fretboard of the ukulele, and with your right hand, what we're going to do is we're just going to strum just one finger at a time like we were doing. But this time we'll start from our pinky, okay? So we start off pinky like this. Okay, after you do a couple times, then we go to our ring finger. Okay, our middle finger. And then our index, okay? I tell you what, okay? I would say maybe a good place to pause the video right here, okay? And if you want, go ahead and take some time to kind of maneuver through that till that feels a little bit more comfortable, okay? Because now, right, jumping ahead, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to do one finger at a time, okay? And one strum with each finger. So you go pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky, ring, middle, index. And as we go through this, right, again, awareness is the key, okay? In this case, I think a good thing to think of, okay, is what part of your nail, okay, is touching the strings, okay? Is it the side, like on the right-hand side, or the left-hand side, or the center, right? It might be different for each person too, okay? But just kind of get a feel for it. And if you don't have a direct answer, that's fine, right? Okay, I just want you to be aware of the feeling, okay? Now, when we end up doing this technique, right, it's one motion though, okay? And you notice as we were doing it, my wrist is moving up and down each and every time, okay? So to get it to be one kind of fluid motion, I want your fingers to feel like the bristles of a brush, right? Or if you're sweeping, okay? You know, if you're using a broom, right, you know, you feel the brush, you know, so the bristles, excuse me, right, kind of push back against you. And just at the right last moment, they flick out, right? And your fingers are going to do the same thing. They're going to touch and they're going to bend just like this and let them. And just at the last minute, they're going to flick forward, okay? And so to that effect, okay, let us rotate our wrist forward like this. And we're just going to very lightly see if they can graze the strings, all right? Probably the first couple of times as we're moving down, right? We might miss a finger. Oh, I missed my middle finger. Okay. Oh, I was real strong on my index there. That kind of thing, yeah? But you take your time. just to kind of get a feel, and be light and gentle. Let your fingers ebb and flow, right? Like the brush, right? To quote the great Bruce Lee, right? Be like water, right? Flow, okay? One of the things when we're practicing techniques, okay, that I always like to kind of emphasize is that when we first do them, I think it's good to make your motions really big, okay? So what I mean by that is that for us today, when we're practicing this fan strum, I want you to kind of push your hand forward, and as you can see my palm, yeah? And it's like we're facing each other like this. Okay, now, as you can imagine, not terribly sustainable when we're playing some music, albeit flashy. Okay, but the idea here, right, is I want your motions to be really big, right? Okay, so we can really hear the distinction here, because that's, I think, is the first goal, yeah? Aside from being comfortable, it's to hear each finger move across each string, all right? Okay, and you see my wrist is coming forward. And you can see my palm, oops, excuse me, just like this, okay? And hey, you gotta, you know, Pete Townsend, the thing out, let it swing, by all means. Because the beautiful part about practicing and doing these repetitions, right, is the thing is, right, what happens when we do the same thing, physical thing, over and over and over again, right? Our body gets tired of that one action happening over and over again. And our brains and our bodies are very, very fascinating and smart things, all right? What's going to happen is that your brain is going to start to say, okay, what is a more efficient way to do this? My hand is tired. I've just done this, you know, more than a dozen times, right? Okay? And that's the beautiful thing, is you keep doing those motions, feel the big swing, feel the motion itself, right, of your hand moving forward. And then you start to keep doing it. It becomes smaller in motion. Okay? All right, so as you're practicing that, right, just to kind of put it into motion in a way that you can play with your neighbor at club, right? Let's go ahead and hold F. Okay? Now, what we're going to do here, we're just going to do simple down strums at first, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to add this fan strum, though, on every second beat. Okay, so for example, if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we usually go down, 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 like this, right? But in this case, I'm going to go down, fan, down, 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 fan, down, 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 fan. Actually, that's a good pace. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, fan, down, 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 fan, down, 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 fan, down, 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 fan, down, down, right? And we can take our time, so to say, as we go through this. Don't forget to breathe as we practice techniques like this by going down, fan, down, down. And as always, just play what you can, right? Okay, if that means that we're just going down, fan, hang out, down, fan, and relax, going down, fan, take a break, that's fine, right? Do what works for you, okay? Down, down, 1, fan, 3, 4, 1, fan, 3, 4, and 1, fan, 3, 4, okay? Now I'm just gonna jump us forward here, okay? So please, right, maybe take some time to practice in that setting, right? Nice and slow, all right? And of course, the adage always rings true, right? When we practice music, right? If you can say it, you can play it. And that's where, for me, it helps, right, to have fan, right, as a single syllable right there, because I can count, and you can count too, right? 1, fan, 3, 4, because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And on beat 2 is where we're putting that fan, okay? But we're going to do the same thing, right? Down, fan. We're going to let that fan be on beat 2, but we're just going to now finish off the rhythm, so to say, right? To complete what would be the island strum, right? Or the down, down, up, down strum, okay? Because now what we're going to do is down, down, up, down. Just a little bit of syncopation on the second half of the bar. Down, down, up, down, 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 up. But we go down, fan, up, down, down, fan, up, down, down, fan, up. Let's try it going down, 2, 3, 4. Down, fan, up, down, down, fan, up, down, down, fan, up, down, So that's going to be the fan strum in a nutshell, and using a very bright texture by approaching our ukulele with our nails. Okay, and as we can see here, something like this I think goes really far, because oftentimes we use that same rhythm, to play a lot of different songs, and just by maybe once in a while throwing it in, just to kind of change things up, it can be a nice kind of elegant way to enhance a song. As they say, right? Variety is the spice of life. Okay. Now, on that note, we're going to be moving over onto the polar opposite end over here, right? And using a different technique. Okay. Now, our technique here, right, from earlier was using the nails. So our polar opposite for our class today is going to be using the flesh of our fingers, the inside. And so instead of it kind of being that outward motion like this that I was talking about, we're actually going to be moving kind of more in, so to say, towards the center of the ukulele. All right, so to get us rolling by using the flesh of our fingers, right, we're going to start off by using our thumb here, right? Very common technique for the ukulele, and just such a really lovely sound too, yeah? So what we're going to be doing is using the flesh of the thumb, and it's just such a simple device for such a lovely, mellow, warm sound from our ukulele. Okay, so I think we can actually just go ahead and jump into this. So let's go ahead and hold the F major chord again, okay? And all we're going to do here is, instead of coming again with the bright part of our nails, just come with this part of your thumb, just right down the ukulele. Now, immediately, we notice a difference in volume, right? We're a lot softer in sound, okay? Also, by striking the strings with the flesh of our fingers and kind of almost brushing against them like this, right? The sound ends up being a little bit warmer too, right? And with that, I think it's really nice, just on a side note, to use this, again, not only to play soft and sweet songs, right? But to play rhythm for somebody, yeah? Maybe somebody is going to be taking a solo or playing a melody or singing even, yeah? Okay? And maybe us on the ukulele, we're being a little loud, okay? This is a great way, I think, for us to kind of move to the background in such a simple device. Okay? Now, to that effect, right, we can also come up on the ukulele too, right? And for us here, we're going to be using our index finger, okay? And it's just a really lovely way to play the ukulele that, I haven't found a really good term for it besides like two-finger style. But the idea here is it's really cool, especially I feel like, admittedly with a low G ukulele like this, because we can get two very distinctively different sounds. Of course, as a disclaimer, it definitely works on a high G too. Okay, it sounds really nice on a high G. Okay, now if we're holding F, okay, again, now instead of just coming down with the thumb, we're going to come up with the index. And now one of the distinctions here, I think, and this is just ergonomically speaking, just on the shape of your hand, okay, is I like to make kind of like, looks like a finger gun, almost like this. Okay, so you notice my index finger is actually pointing towards the headstock of the ukulele. Okay, because instead of coming with this part, because as you might kind of notice, at least with my hands right now, I have that nail here, and when I do this, it's really easy to touch and grab that nail. Okay, so using the side of my finger, okay, and actually there's a little bit of it's a little bit harder as you kind of feel that part of your finger as it's the side of where your bone is. Okay, you can come up the ukulele like this. So holding F, okay, as I'm kind of sideways like this, going up. And same wrist motion. Okay. Sometimes as we do this, right, you might have noticed even for me, right, I hit just a couple strings, sometimes all, okay. Just move them and try to grab as many as you can at first, okay? Just up. Now, of course, gotta go both directions, right? Let's alternate. Let's go down and up, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is kind of just jump us forward just a little bit here, okay? And I want you to try this as we go back and forth. We're gonna go nice and steady and nice and slow as we were doing, okay? But the little difference here is that when you come down with your thumb, okay? I mean, of course, please feel free to come all the way down. But I want you to try just strumming maybe the G and the C string, just these two strings. Okay, and inversely, when we come up with our index finger, let's see if we can't just grab these two strings. Okay, just the E and the A string. Right, and let's hear what that sounds like on our ukulele, or what kind of effect that has on our ukulele. Okay, let's take a listen. Okay, so I'm going to go thumb, index, index, thumb, index. When you're ready, here we go. Go thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb. Yeah. Of course, as always, modulate the technique for yourself, right? See what's comfortable for you. Keep listening to your body. And of course, again, awareness is key. So bring into yourself a little bit of awareness. What does it feel like underneath your fingers? Boom. Oof, it's barely audible. Okay. Thumb, index, thumb, index. Okay. Now, as we're just rocking back and forth like this, you notice for me on my tuning here that it sounds kind of like a boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck. The hallmark of a lot of great music, rhythmically. Boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck. Okay? And now we can let this extend out, right, into playing a lot of the other rhythms, right? So coming back to the one that we use again, the down, down, up, down strumming pattern that we often use, right? What if we just do the same thing, right, but utilize this idea, right? So down, down, up, down would be thumb, thumb, index, index, thumb, right? Or down, down, up, down, okay? And listen to the way that that sounds on our F, okay? I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. I'll just take a listen. Right? Different effect, right? Right? And while we're here, right, again, right, the reason why that we use the expression play music and not work music, right, is I think it's important to have a playful mind, okay? And so for something like this, you kind of see, right? Maybe what do we want to try out, okay? Like my mind here, for example, it keeps telling me, you know what, Neal, what if once in a while we give a full down strum with our thumb, right? I don't know, let's try it out, okay? I like that. It's a different kind of sound. Oh, I'm going all the way now all of a sudden, right? Okay, and you can come back. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. Okay. On a side note, right, as we're wrapping up this technique, it's a really simple technique again, right? But just a really lovely way to get a real nice sweet sound out of your ukulele, okay? As a side note, to kind of set your sights, it's a really great way for those of you who enjoy playing melodies on your ukulele. This is a wonderful way to do that as well, okay? It's such a, for lack of a better way of explaining it, a very ukulele sound, yeah? All right. Hey. So that's going to wrap up our class over here, talking about various really right hand techniques that kind of enhance, or so to say, our ukulele playing, right? And please keep in mind, right, again, right, it's such a wonderful thing to do that we have this space like club like this, right, for us to kind of take out some of these techniques just for a ride. And I think that's a lovely spirit to go into, right? You know, of course, as a teacher, I'm going to say like, yeah, I would love for you to master all of these techniques and even more, of course, right? Just because it'll help you expand out into new aural experience, A-U-R-A-L, aural experiences, so to say, okay? But please, 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 right? In all of that seriousness, so to say, right? Take it nice and slow and enjoy the ride, right? It's all about the journey. So have fun maneuvering those techniques, and I look forward to hearing and seeing the way that all of us are playing on our ukulele. So, on that note, thanks again for tuning in, friends, and jam on.